Hello, and welcome back to Radio NIGP. Thank you for joining us. Happy Procurement Month. Let me be the first to recognize and thank all of you for your hard work and dedication to your agencies, your teams, and our profession. On today's broadcast, you will hear from your colleagues about the impact public procurement has for our agencies. We'll also talk about celebrating successful procurements and hear interviews from your peers about procurement success stories. Also, learn about other ways to engage staff to recognize the impact they have on your agency. Thank you for spending some time with us. Please know that we celebrate you and your dedication and the difference you make every day. Hope to see you soon.
Happy Procurement Month. Now, we celebrate Procurement Month every year, but for some reason, this feels a little bit different. I think back to March of 2020, the same year that some brilliant minds came together to produce the very first shows for Radio NIGP. That year we worked from a possible 2-week hiatus from the workplace to medical supply shortages and supply chain disruptions, and then settling in at our own kitchen counters to do our work remotely. But because we were committed to producing public benefit, we worked long days and weekends, always agile, always innovative, always client-focused. In March of 2021, we knew we were in it for the long haul. Yeah, sure, there were vaccinations. They first became available. We still had a lot of obstacles to overcome, and our theme was really resiliency. By March 22, we were emerging from the pandemic, but still struggling with supply chain disruptions and still struggling with in-person activities. And now here we are, March of 2023, kind of looking back on the many successes that we're able to achieve, some which will be shared in this episode, but also forging forward with a very bright future. We are rapidly shifting from T to T, from being transactional to being transformational, reshaping our mission from one of transactional compliance to one of transforming strategy as we work alongside our fellow public servants to enhance the quality of life for the citizens we serve. You see, strategy means working together under a common mission across departments, across public agencies, and with the supplier community to deliver public benefit. But strategy also means elevating the conversation regarding our number one resource, our people. It means identifying career paths, building succession plans, and cultivating leaders that will sustain public procurement well into the future. So as I stand before you today, yes, we're still faced with many challenges. I've spoken to many of you, and you have shared kind of this universal concern that there's too few human resources to meet the public procurement demands. Yeah, these challenges are exacerbated by a shrinking workforce, increased demands from federal funding initiatives like ARPA and the infrastructure, and then a workforce that demands both flexibility in remote work and purposeful impact. And so we are certainly experiencing a disruption in talent. Now, in these challenging moments, it's sometimes difficult to remain hopeful, but I firmly believe that this is the best time to be in public procurement. But it requires two eyes, and not these two eyes, but the eyes of investment and impact. I've often heard our colleagues say that they can't really get ahead because their public agency doesn't have funding. May I boldly suggest that it is time for you to invest in you. Now, our Pathways program was specifically designed with you in mind to deliver micro-learning across multiple competencies, which means it's easier for you to kind of choose which learning is most relevant to the work that you do today and at a low cost. And that Pathways program is supplemented by low-cost learning labs, low-cost headliner series on contemporary topics, and over 20 free webinars annually. And there's plenty of scholarship programs that are available to you through NIGP and your local NIGP chapter. So invest in you by first defining your career path and setting goals for lifelong learning that will really assure greater promotional opportunities for your career. Now, if you don't know where to start, we have both a concierge and a mentorship program that will guide you. So just send me an email and I will connect you with those programs. Folks, the only person holding you back is you. Now, that second I is the impact you make every day to make your communities and the world a better place to live. Now, as you think about the impact you make, don't count the number of POs you issued this month, but get in your car and take a short drive through your community. You see, your eyes will see the parks that you landscape, the roads that you build and repair, the hospitals you equip, the clean drinking water you provide, the fire trucks and police vehicles you solicit, the school children whose backpacks are filled with the materials you bought. Now, what other profession seriously impacts our communities the way you do as faithful public procurement leaders? Do you see, this is our collective calling to celebrate Public Procurement Month with your hearts and your voices, just as this edition of Radio NIGP celebrates the amazing stories that demonstrate the impact we make every day. So during this Procurement Month, I encourage you to invest some time to define your career, to develop a new competency, to earn your NIGP Certified Procurement Professional designation, to apply for scholarships that further your learning, to serve your local NIGP chapter, and to meet new public procurement colleagues who are on this journey with you. It's the little and big things that make the greatest impact. In its third year of Radio NIGP, I am particularly grateful to the leadership of these individuals who make this amazing learning experience happen. These are volunteers who have immense passion for sharing their time and their stories with you. And their contributions to the betterment of public procurement makes us all more equipped to be our best. So truly, this is the best time to be in public procurement. Happy Procurement Month and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Tara Acton from Radio NIGP's Hot Topics team, and I'm excited to share some tips for you staying engaged and not burning out. Even when life feels overwhelming, I'd like to share just a couple tips with you of how I stay engaged and stay connected to the reasons that I love public procurement. Tip one is to get out into the field. And I'm not talking about attending pre-bids or on-site meetings or committee meetings, not in your office's conference room. I'm talking about really getting to know the clients that you serve, your end-using departments, whatever you want to call them, stakeholders in your community that you are tasked with helping them buy the goods and the services that they need to achieve their mission. And one key reason for doing this, even if there's no other reason, is that it helps build a relationship with your departments and they see that you truly do value what they're doing and you understand them. Because quite frankly, my end user departments could care less about the certification behind my name. They don't care about following the procurement code. They don't even sometimes understand why it exists. And so my only way to really connect with them is to show them through my actions that I'm excited about helping them achieve their goals. The other piece of this, and the reason that it helps me stay engaged and not burn out, is that it's an opportunity for me to see the impacts that I've made on my community. And that is my real why for loving the public procurement profession. What I do matters. What I do makes life better for public servants. What I do makes life better for our communities, for individuals that are impacted by their programs. And so getting out into the field is more than the pre-bid. It's more than the site walk. It's participating in a tour of a completed fire station. I've seen recently where people have gone into schools that they had a part in helping build. And so just a few examples of things that I've been allowed to be a part of as being a procurement officer. I've attended multiple fire station tours where the fire department itself is excited to take me around and introduce me to the firefighters that are there doing the work. And I know that I've been a part of something that's created a safer living environment and safer working conditions for the City of Tucson's fire department. I've been able to participate in a public safety training where I got to ride along with the academy instructor while he was pretending to be the bad guy with cadets after finishing a public safety training academy high-speed track. We did a ride along with my entire team where we set up time to go along with garbage collection on their route. And although we probably begrudgingly started the process because trash just isn't that exciting, seeing the operators in their realm and seeing them be excited about explaining how the equipment works and why the cab is configured the way that it's configured, them being able to share their skills as they're driving through alleyways and through tight routes and really doing something that they enjoy doing, it really helped build a bond with them where they started to trust us. Since I've been back at the county, I participated in our elections department logic and accuracy testing prior to an upcoming election. I've been able to attend groundbreaking events for some of our major capital improvements. Most recently, it was for a new animal shelter that our county has probably needed for the last 10 years. Those are the things that are exciting because you actually get to see the tangible result of your efforts and all of your struggle. So find creative ways to engage with your departments and to truly show them that you care about what they do. Tip number 2 is to volunteer. Now, this is for radio NIGP, so of course, my bias is towards NIGP, but get out and volunteer in whatever makes you passionate, whatever ties you back to the things that you love about your community or the things that you love about this profession. Volunteering with NIGP has done so much to enrich my life, and it has gotten me through the difficult days. On the days where my job that pays the bills is nearly unbearable, some of those volunteer engagements are what gets me through just enough to keep going and to want to come back to it the next day. And sometimes volunteering within my larger community, giving back to a church, giving back to nonprofits, it helps me again connect to the heart of the matter for me is that we're making our communities better. And we can do that through volunteering as well. And my final tip is to have fun with your team, especially if you are a supervisor. Find reasons to celebrate, find reasons to bring the whole team together and engage with them. You know, it's things like celebrating little wins. If somebody's graduating, getting married, having a baby, bought a new house, it takes nothing to bring in donuts, schedule a 15-minute meeting, maybe have a baby shower, do things to celebrate your employees in their personal lives as well as their professional lives. Things as simple as doing a fun activity together at the beginning of every staff meeting. I've built puzzles with my team. We've played a weird version of Jenga. One of my team's favorite activities that we do, I think we call it like coffee questions, just because it's a coffee cup that I have full of random questions, just trying to get to know each other better. You know, if your life were a sitcom, which sitcom would you be? Find ways to engage with your team because we spend a lot of time with our coworkers, whether it's virtually or in person. And although we don't have to love each other, we better like each other enough to spend those 8 hours a day, sometimes 10 to 12 hours a day together and actually enjoy each other's company. So find ways to celebrate things with your team. As much as it helps you, it helps them too. And if they're happy coming to work, they're probably going to be more productive. They're going to be more engaged as well. So I hope you enjoyed my 3 tips for staying engaged. I hope you enjoyed some of the pictures that I get to share of the adventures that I've had, and you get a little bit better picture of the things that I love about public procurement. Happy Procurement Month, and this is Radio NIGP.
Good afternoon, Kirk Buffington here, and we at Radio NIGP are sharing some times about when we believe procurement had an impact on others during March Procurement Month. Procurement has always had a lead when other entities had to respond to emergencies and natural disasters. Here in South Florida, 2005 was a record-breaking hurricane season for the country and particularly for South Florida and the Gulf Coast of Louisiana. Hurricane Wilma, a Cat 5 hurricane, came across Florida from the eastern Gulf Coast and caused significant damage in 6 of the southeastern Florida counties. Thousands lost all of their portions of the roofs, and hundreds of thousands were without power for up to 4 weeks. My home was without power for 16 days, and I've lived in Florida almost my entire life, and even through Andrew, Wilma was the most destructive hurricane I had ever experienced. This is when the public looks to the government for speedy responses and recovery. City procurement was immediately tasked with sourcing and distributing water, ice, and roof tarps. Because of the time that it took for power to be restored, the distribution process became a daily distribution at multiple points of distribution, PODs. Throughout the city, the procurement team was up to the challenge. Members of the team worked up to 16 days without any time off. We distributed over 25 truckloads of both ice and water and over a dozen deliveries of roof tarps. For over a year, South Florida was awash in blue tops. It was during this time that I could see the positive impact of procurement in delivering services to our residents. Most of the time, we don't see a direct impact of our operations on the public. We see what we accomplish for our operating departments, but now how the departments then deliver services daily. During this period, I was able to see the direct impact on making a family's life just a little bit better for a little bit of time. It is something that stayed with me throughout my public service career. I remember that the city management team was relatively new as Hurricane Wilma approached, and several of them had not experienced any hurricanes and had not worked in the public sector. One in particular, who had no government experience, had said to me after coming on board but before the hurricane season, "I don't know what it is you do." I'm sure we have all experienced similar sentiments from our bosses and our end users. But afterwards, as we were recovering, she stopped by my office and said, "Now I know what you and your team bring to the table." And as we came back together in City Hall, several of my colleagues in management took up a collection and made an appointment for me to get a professional shave. I had not shaved in like 21 days. As I said earlier, this experience has stuck with me for my entire career, not only serving the public, but gaining the respect of our management team and having team leaders. So for that, public procurement delivers to its citizens and its residents. Again, thank you all so much for your time. Kirk Buffington, Radio NIGP.
Hello, and welcome to Radio NIGP. As we celebrate Procurement Month, I wanted to take a moment to remind you of your impact. Many times we become bogged down in our daily lives and activities of answering emails and phone calls, putting out fires, and attending endless meetings. During these times, many lose focus on the value they bring, not only to their organization, but also to the public we serve. When you recognize that feeling of monotony or are feeling run down and overwhelmed, I'd like you to take a moment and remind yourself that you have an impact. Whether you establish contracts for office supplies or janitorial services, public safety or construction, whether you work for counties, states, or schools or other public entities, the contracts you establish both directly and indirectly enhance and support the lives of the communities we serve. So think back to that last contract you awarded and what purpose it served. You have an impact. Also know that we, your fellow procurement professionals, are here to support you. So reach out when you lose your purpose and need a boost. Thank you for all that you do and keep up the great work.
Happy Procurement Month, everyone. Penny Owens with chapter updates here. One of the most impactful projects in my career had to be the work we did for an energy savings contract. This is a long process where you go through qualifications, an energy audit, and eventually contracting for the improvements to your facilities. We held a city council workshop about a month after I started with the city, and I jumped, or maybe I was tossed headfirst into knowing everything about it. As we neared the point of choosing our ESCO, our sustainability director left, and our deputy mayor at the time decided our purchasing agent and the contract manager, that would be me at the time, would handle the implementation. In essence, I became the day-to-day project manager and learned so much, not only about the project, but also about the city facilities. I quickly learned all about all things energy related: boilers, lighting, water, even solar. To this day, when I walk into a building I've never visited, I look to the ceiling to see the type of lighting installed. I still see evidence of the project we did all over the city, and I'm really proud of the work we did. I have a quick item to share from the managerial aspect as well. I have a staff member who is just now shy of his first year with us. Hey, Gabe. And purchasing new chairs for our Coliseum was one of his first acquisitions. Some months ago, he was excited to go to an event at the Coliseum so he could see those new chairs. It's always great to see our team take pride in the work they do to support our city. I want to throw out a penny for your thoughts. I am challenging our listeners to share on Insight some of the most impactful procurements you've had in your career during Public Procurement Month. See you back next month on Chapter Updates.
Hello, welcome to a Radio NIGP segment about making an impact in procurement. I'm Barb Johnson, and I'm on staff with Radio NIGP, and I'm delighted to say that I have with me Mr. Charlie Rossell, who is with the Cleveland Metro Parks. Charlie, tell us a little bit about you and the parks.
Hey, Barb, thank you so much, and I'm really honored that you asked me to have this interview. So I'm Charlie Rossell, Director of Cleveland Metro Parks up here in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland Metro Parks is a park district. We have anywhere between around 24,000 acres of land. It consists of a zoo. We have 8 golf courses, soon to be 9. We have our own police force, and myself and my team of 2, I call us the mighty team of 3, help support our park managers, the zoo, our police force, and various bids and commodities to help service and provide good service to our patrons.
Excellent, excellent. And I'm originally from Cleveland, and I can personally attest to the fact that the Metro Parks are just a gem. They really are.
Well,
In fact, a whole string of gems, the emerald necklace, right? Okay. Well, I had asked you, because we're celebrating March is Purchasing Month, or March is Procurement Month, that's right, raise the roof, about you've had a wonderfully illustrious career, and about any particular procurements that you've experienced that sort of were highlights in your work. Would you like to share that story with us?
Yeah, absolutely, Miss Barb. We have to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollar. As procurement professionals, every day is different. Every day could be challenging. And so when you ask me that question, I'm like, what is really earth-shattering that I have done that might be exciting to other people? So one of the things that I say that I like is, I like talking, maybe too much, but is the networking piece, the socializing. So when I was down with the state of Ohio, I did a lot of working in operations, and I really got to know the folks at the Ohio state and federal surplus. So long story short, when I moved back to Cleveland back in 2009, several years later, Jim reached out to me and said, "Hey, Charlie, are you still working for Cleveland Metro Parks?" I said, "Well, yeah, absolutely." He said, "Over in Brecksville, Ohio, there was a facility that was for our veterans." and they were looking at moving our veterans, like the veteran facility, the VA, to a different location. Well, at this old location, which had acres of land, multiple buildings, there was ample furniture and equipment, fence, machines, tractors, all this stuff that was going to be sent to state and federal surplus. So when Jim called me and said, "Hey, go take a look, you might be interested in some of this," we went to this facility. I went by myself and then also with a lady from GSA. Her name is Kay. So Kay and I started walking the building, and I'm walking through, and I mean, full sets of offices and video screens and TVs and whiteboards and all this stuff that was available to us via the state and federal surplus. After going through all these crazy buildings, workshops and carpenter buildings and all this other stuff, we walked out of there with an estimated value of $500,000 worth of equipment.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a team effort, gathering and organizing all this logistic stuff, and $500,000 worth of value, and we only paid $10,000 for it.
Wow.
Big time savings to the park. And it also saved, the Brecksville VA from having to ship all this down to Columbus, Ohio, where state and federal surplus is. It was such a huge accomplishment, not just for me. It was fun and exciting for me, but it helped save our department's budgets, because maybe they had to budget for office furniture, but they had to wait a couple of years because there was other things that were more important. Well, now we were getting office furniture. Instead of paying $1,500 for a desk, we were paying maybe $100. We helped save the citizens of Cuyahoga County and Hinckley Township up here in Cleveland taxpayer dollars, because we were getting all this equipment for only $10,000. And it's equipment, it's furniture that our folks needed, but it wasn't in the budget because other things were more important to take care of. So instead of, pleasing a few people, this endeavor, it just was exciting, and it helped so many of our staff members throughout the park.
Not to mention, I know you have a strong environmental support component in the parks. Environmentally, you reduced, reused, and recycled.
Absolutely, sustainability. It is important, and
right.
Yeah, and that's what we're all about.
That's wonderful. So this sounds incredible. It sounds like a win all the way around. And were you recognized for this?
This was presented to our board more as an info item. We have a 3-person board of park commissioners that is appointed by our probate judge. And then, so we thought this was such a huge accomplishment, tax saving, saving taxpayer dollars. We wanted to present this to the board. So yes, I guess I was recognized. My name was in there, but I didn't get any type of trophy. But our board of park commissioners, our CEO at the time, was just so happy, so thankful that this landed in our lap. Thankful that I had that rapport with Jim with state and federal surplus, that he remembered I was up in Cleveland, gave me that phone call, and then just made it all happen.
Well, I'm so proud of you, because I've seen you grow in this profession, and likewise, I hear the same from other folks I'll call the Rosselites, who say, I can always call Charlie and he'll get right with me. So, and you've had a wealth of experience in the profession, and I can tell there's passion. It means something for you to be this fabulous service to Northeast Ohio and really all of our colleagues. So thank you. I do want to mention that in terms of volunteering, you are a former chapter ambassador. You've been on many committees and task forces, and you're a former buyer of the year. And that stays on the NIGP website forever. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Barb. It was fun.
Yes.
What are we doing next month? I'm in.
Okay.
Hello, David Nash here with Radio NIGP. This month we are discussing the impact we are often unaware of that we have on our agencies. I have long been bothered by the comments people often make about government incompetency and never seeming to do anything right. Having served in the U.S. military for 20 years, I know firsthand that they've got their act. When it comes to the local level, two of the questions I often ask naysayers is, do they always have water coming out of their taps at home? And do they ever wonder where the wastewater goes? It certainly isn't into some large hole under their house. Years ago, I was promoted into a position with my city's utility department where my major customers were the water treatment and wastewater treatment facilities. Water treatment was located a few hundred yards from my building, so I visited them several times. However, the wastewater plant, known as GTL, was about 10 miles away. The contact person from GTL was in my office several times a week about his procurement needs and regularly invited me to come down and see the operation. Now, it's not exactly a visit that most of us would like to make. However, I finally acquiesced and went for a tour. The first thing I noticed upon arrival, beside the air quality, was that everyone was wearing knee-high boots in a bright shade of yellow. It turns out that wastewater is very corrosive. So much so that even though much of the equipment used at GTL was the same as that used by the water treatment folks, it only lasted about half as long. That's a huge difference when pumps can cost $25,000 or more. In addition to the plant itself, there's a network of feeder lines throughout the community to bring waste to the plant for processing. Since Florida is very flat, the material is helped along its way from every neighborhood by something called a lift station. If you've ever seen a small fenced-in area along the road with a green light and an antenna sticking above it, that's a lift station. There are often signs on the fence indicating that if the light is flashing red, someone should call the number on the fence, as that means that the pump is not working. Several times I have been stationed at an emergency operations center during a hurricane, and the first topic of conversation has been which agencies are experiencing a power outage and do they need a portable generator to keep their lift stations operating. Needless to say, it is critical from a public health standpoint that the flow continues. My visit to GTL only lasted a few hours, but I came away with a newfound respect for the folks in my utilities department and what they had to deal with on a daily basis. It certainly gave me a greater understanding of their point of view whenever they approached me about one of their procurements. Having the right equipment and supplies was critical to the success of their mission. Having visited the plant also gave me a lot of street credibility with everyone at GTL, and that was beneficial for me as I went about my duties. I think it's important that all of us in public procurement understand what our customers' responsibilities are and appreciate the impact that we have on our agencies. I certainly did. Thanks for checking in with us today, and I hope to see you all here again soon. This has been David Nash with Radio NIGP.
Hi everyone, Valerie Scott here with Radio NIGP. This month, I would like to talk about the impact procurement officials can have when we're willing to be flexible and think outside the box. Now, when I say flexible, I am not talking about breaking the law. Very important distinction. However, there are times where we can come up with creative ways of meeting our laws and our regulations while helping our end users get what they need. And the example I have for you is our core and lead units within our public safety division. The individuals in these units often accompany officers on calls, or they just go out into the community and they provide support and resources to individuals experiencing things like addiction, homelessness, and domestic violence. And because of the types of support they need to provide, they often have to purchase things that we would normally consider to be weird and not in compliance with our P-card policies and procedures. Yet P-card is the best way to make these purchases. Importantly, the grant that supports this work actually encourages some of these types of purchases in order to provide adequate resources to individuals. So, for example, maybe someone needs groceries and they need a gift card to go to the grocery store in order to put food on the table for themselves and their families. We normally would absolutely prohibit gift card purchases on the P card, but we were able to work with these units to come up with a system to procure the gift cards, to track them, to make sure that they were being given to the people who they are supposed to be given to, and to provide documentation to that effect. And that is just one example of one of the unique exceptions we've made in order to help the individuals in this program accomplish the job that they've been tasked with doing. What was really impactful to me is that this was not a comfortable thing for me to do, to make any kind of exception to what we have stated is the policy for how P-cards can be used. However, I tried to see beyond my discomfort to what the ultimate end goal was. I looked at the grant and could confirm that these were the types of activities that were permissible and encouraged for these units. And so by providing adequate documentation and support to these units, they have been able to have a massive impact in our community. One thing that really drove this home for me was when the director of the program sent myself, the procurement specialist who supports public safety, and our P-card administrator a booklet, and it was anonymized stories of people they had helped. And it was really, really powerful, not only to read the stories, but to understand that while indeed it is the people who are in the field doing the work to support these individuals who are having the impact, they're able to have that impact because of what we were willing to do to be flexible and support the business. So I encourage us all to think about how we can think outside the box and be creative, follow the law, but provide the best support to our end users to ultimately help our communities thrive. That's all I have for you today. Valerie Scott signing off, Radio NIGP.
Good afternoon, everybody. Kirk Buffington here with you from Radio NIGP. And today, I'm so excited to have Christy Varda with us, who is a member of our member council. And in March, member council elections are upcoming. And I'd like Christy just to share a little bit about the elections and why you should be concerned, why you should be involved in these. A lot of you don't realize that we didn't always have a member council. Back when I served on the board, we were represented by regions, not direct membership elections. So the member council is elected directly by you. So with that, Christy, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Kurt. I'm so happy to be here and to represent the member council on Radio and IGP. So, as we said, the elections are coming up soon, and we hear about elections, but the biggest thing everyone needs to know is what's in it for me. So let me tell you just a little bit so that you'll have an idea about what is in the elections for you. So first off, keep in mind that the member council is the only council of the governing body that is elected by you, the membership. And, this was what was part of that reimagining that NIGP did a few years ago. And they felt it was really important that we set up a portion of our governing body that was actually elected by the membership. So membership could have a say in what happens going forward with NIGP. So just a few things that we do on the member council. We actually establish the eligibility and conditions for agency and individual membership, as well as chapter affiliates. We work on the professional code of conduct to include a code of ethics. We establish mechanisms for growth for young professionals and improve diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's where a lot of your classes come from and a lot of the different webinars and things that you see. We advocate for the evolving needs of the association to help with trends to ensure that we're providing the most current and relevant and meaningful benefits and structure its membership to increase opportunities for improving diversity and developing the next generation. That's why there's always new programs, new classes to come out, which is why we now have the NIGP concierge service, because we want to help guide and mold those young professionals. So we do provide clear and regular thoughtful guidance to support the direction of these committees and task force, such as the awards task force or the talent council, things like that. And then last but not least, we oversee and establish the various awards that the Institute provides, such as the Ann Dethridge Award, or, some of the other awards you may see that come out that we present an award to individuals throughout our profession at our annual forum. So the biggest thing I can tell everyone is, the ballot's going to be coming out in March, and we want you just to be aware that it's coming. And so you will be able to review the candidates that are selected and are on the ballot, read their bios, and then you'll have an idea of who you're electing to the member council to represent you in the years going forward.
Okay. Well, great, Christy. Thank you so much for that recap and update on the upcoming member council elections. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm just looking forward to another great year.
Great. Well, thanks so much. And again, everyone, Kirk Buffington, Christy Varda, Radio NIGP.
Hello, and welcome to Way to Grow, an NIGP mentorship moment. And welcome to Procurement Month. Our theme this month is focused on reporting the impact the public procurement has had on our organization and on others in the profession through our own staff. And since our segment's all about identifying growth opportunities, I'd like to highlight one of the tools that we use to train ourselves to have that impact in the first place. And our story today highlights the new Public Procurement Associate Designation Intensive course. And I'm fortunate to be joined by my own staff member, the City of Tamarack, Florida's own Senior Procurement Specialist, Ms. Rhonda Kaplan, who just completed the course and has now received her Public Procurement Associate Designation, or PPA. So Rhonda, welcome to Way to Grow.
Thank you.
First of all, congratulations on receiving your PPA designation.
Thank you.
And I'd like to know what you thought about the Public Procurement Associate Designation Intensive course, and would you recommend it to others who wish to take it in the future?
I like the class very much, and I would definitely recommend it to others. It's condensed, so you get a lot of information in a short amount of time, but even though it's a lot and it's condensed, it's very thorough, and the instructors do a very good job imparting the information to you in a way that you can understand and digest and move on to the next topic.
Well, I think that we all know that professional development is definitely a key component of making us ready to make an impact on our individual organization. So I'd like to know how you think that this course and the PPA designation will help you make an impact right here at the City of Tamarack.
Honestly, it covered so much. I think one of the areas that it'll be the most maybe recognizable is that we did a lot of work with learning about the legal environment and the regulations and ethics and professionalism. And I think that really will help to professionalize my help to professionalize the way I do my job, because I'm do a lot of things in the public with bid openings and evaluation meetings, and it's just made me much more cognizant of my actions and the things I say, the things I do, and how I handle the public in different areas. And I think that'll probably be the one of the most important things that will come out of it.
Well, I tell you, I look forward to that here at the city, and to your greater growth as well. And I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today on Way to Grow.
Of course, my pleasure.
So just a reminder to everybody that you can find the NIGP mentorship program as well as our mentorship Facebook page at www.nigp.org/mentorship. So this is Keith Glatt speaking, and hoping that you'll join me soon here on Radio NIGP for another segment of Way to Grow, and reminding you that this is Radio NIGP.
There's an article about a gentleman in Atlanta, Georgia, right? This is going back to April 2020, in the heart of the pandemic. We have, in this story, a gentleman whose name is Christopher Paris, who basically tried to defraud the federal government of $750 million in PPE supplies. Now, what happens is he tries to sell these supplies, face masks, other things, to the government, and he doesn't get away with it. Instead, he gets arrested, and he is facing 20 years in jail and possibly $250,000 in fines. Here's what's interesting, and why I even bring this up, is that the article says he attempted to sell the entity those PPE supplies. Same thing happened at the University of South Carolina when I was there. Our facilities department was eager to get PPE supplies onto the campus, and there was something in particular that they were looking at. And then when we turned around and looked at the same thing, we found that they were getting ripped off, or the attempt to get ripped off, because of course there was all this price gouging going on during the pandemic, right? And so we stopped it. We found a better resource, and we ended up looking like heroes. That's why I bring this up. Happy Procurement Month. I'm here today just to congratulate you on a job well done and everything that you bring to your entity, and to also remind you that many times you and I are what stands between our colleagues, stakeholders, leadership, administration, end users. We stand between them and either the news or jail. And that is no small feat. And so you take the time to celebrate yourself and to really ponder the value and brag on the value that you bring to your entity. Again, happy National Procurement Month. And I say this to you because I know one thing for sure. I don't look good in orange, and neither do my colleagues. You have a wonderful month.
Hello, friends. While we celebrate you and the work that you do every day, as a profession, we take the month of March to recognize the value procurement professionals bring to our organization, the entities we serve, and the community as a whole. Sometimes it can be tough in our jobs to constantly adjust to ever-changing markets, natural disasters, and other emergencies, and the ever-present threat of cyber attacks and contract delays. It seems we're always in a state of training, whether that be of a new team member or new end users that might not understand the value and importance of what we do. Bless our hearts, we can get tired at times, but friends, you are amazing. You've got this. You just continue to procure on. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why do I stay in procurement? Why do I do this job? I dare say you procure on because you are worth it. You have gifts and talents that have grown and developed as you continue to serve others through this profession. You procure on because your organization is worth it. You are there for a reason, and why not bloom where you're planted? And you procure on because your community needs you. What you do makes a difference. Take some time to reflect on the contracts that you've put in place that can be seen or are utilized by so many in your community. I bet you can't help but smile, can you? Throughout the month, we here at Radio NIGP encourage you to come up with a variety of activities and ways to celebrate you and the work that you do with those around you. Continue to procure on, my friends. See you next time.
Hey, y'all, it's Stacy, and I know that you guys are used to me coming with my stories from the orange side. However, for Procurement Month, I decided that I would assemble a group of some of my favorite people. I have to the left of me, I guess she's showing up to the left, Candace Golston from the University of South Carolina. Candace, just kind of wave.
Hi.
Everybody knows. I have Kristen Webb Kristen is from Tennessee. Kristen Knoxville?
Memphis.
Memphis? Kristen's from the city of Memphis. And then I have a very special young lady. She is my student teammate here from South Carolina State University in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Trinity Jackson. Trinity, just a little fun fact, Miss Candace is an alumni of South Carolina State University. So this is home for her, and she's going to be next week with us.
That sounds really nice.
It is. So this segment, we're just going to be talking about how procurement adds value. And I'm going to turn it over to my student teammate, Miss Trinity, to get us started with the conversation.
Okay, well, just a quick question off the top. Can you all tell me some places you all have worked at within procurement?
Oh, I like this question. I think it's kind of a short list if I could jump right in. So I have worked with a governmental utility agency. I did that for about 10 years in the governmental space. In the governmental utility space. Also, I've been in transportation, in the fuel industry with FedEx and a private industry, right? So kind of different than what we do a little bit, but still a great similarities as well. And then lastly, I'm in county government now. And so my experience in working with all facets of county business and procurement is where I've landed now. So that's my small background.
And for me, I started off at Department of Transportation, and I was there for approximately like 9 years. Then I ventured over to the human health service side and worked and was the director for Department of Disabilities and Special Needs. And then in July of 2022, I came over to USC and did higher ed. So this is a new ball game for me. So it's very exciting.
Nice. So Candace is at my alma mater, Forever to Thee. I have been working, the bulk of my career has been in K-12, which is Richland School District 1 in Columbia, South Carolina. From there, I went to the State Procurement Office, which was quite an experience. I loved it there. I was at the University of South Carolina for about 3 years, and then I landed here, and I say that I'll be here until I retire, unless the Lord says I'm going to be someplace else.
Love it. Love it.
Yes.
Those were all really great answers. Just thought y'all should know. Okay. Favorite procurement spot that you all have worked at?
Do you mean location or the commodity?
She doesn't know what commodity is.
Perfect. Okay. So I immediately went to location. So I'm going to stay away from location I'm going to stay away from location. But like my most fun thing that I've purchased has been in the space of inmate accommodations, whether it's been like mattresses. I get excited. I can tell people I've laid on a jail bed, not because I was locked up, but because we had to get samples to come in, right? And somebody's got to test them. And we weren't doing the testing, but I did ease my way in there to lay on a mattress, right? So I think it speaks to the uniqueness and the coolness of governmental procurement and the different services that we provide, and how generally we would never have knowledge or opportunity to actually touch those spaces. So I just love the exposure of it, but that's been my most fun so far. Not because, I hope the inmates get out, right? But I love what we procure and how we support them. Even from a medical standpoint, inmates have to have medical coverage, things that we don't consider as just normal everyday citizens. So as much as a lot of work goes into those things, those have probably been my most fun to date.
Oh, how do we top that?
You can. It's there. It's there.
Okay. That was great. I'm gonna kind of touch on both. For me, I'm gonna say place and commodity. And it's almost about comfort level to me, because Department of Transportation is where I started procurement. So that would be my favorite place. And the commodity would be bridges. So construction of bridges for our the county office to and have those installed. And reason why I say that is because we hear this big stigma about the roads are not being safe and there are potholes. So I think, providing that service to our citizens of South Carolina is always a good thing. And I think that's my most proud, accomplishment, is being able to be a part of that procurement and that process to make sure that our roads are safe.
Love it.
That's awesome. So, you know what I found in education, whether it be K-12 or higher ed, is you never know what you're going to get from day to day. And I imagine it's the same thing for you, Kristen, when it comes to your corrections system there in Memphis. I also really enjoyed working at the state procurement office, because in that capacity, I touched every single state agency, or I had the capacity to touch every single state agency in the state. And in that instance, that included the corrections, that included the universities, everything. My favorite procurement was one that I did with the Department of Commerce, or it was a big collaboration. They got a grant from HUD after the 1,000-year flood. Trinity, you remember the 1,000-year flood? No, you weren't here. You weren't in South Carolina. So I'll explain it. It just started raining. Candace, you remember this? It rained for like a week.
Yeah.
Were you at DOT at the time?
I was at DOT that time.
So all of the roads were all messed up. Like, people were actually driving down the street and falling in sinkholes because the roads were all messed up. We couldn't leave our houses. And so following that, y'all can imagine the devastation of people's houses. So my favorite procurement allowed me to find a contractor to do everything from intake to auditing the program, full spectrum, a program that would rebuild homes for citizens whose homes were either completely lost, or were like mildew infested, mold infested because of the 1,000-year flood. And it was so exciting, y'all. And we had a date that we were gonna launch this whole thing, and Governor Haley was gonna go to have a news conference on the anniversary date. And on the anniversary date, Hurricane Matthew came through, and we couldn't. And the following year, I actually did the same procurement for depressed areas who had the same challenges. So that's my favorite, because it made a difference.
Yeah. And that's where I was going to piggyback, because that's what I love most, is the service that we're contributing, right? Like, it gets really exciting. When I was at the utility industry, I would ride down the street and get excited when I saw wire, right? I never thought about wire the same way before I ever started procuring it, but I'm like, that wired someone internally, that's how we're able to flip the switch on at home, right? Like, simple things that we touch. So yeah.
Well, and being able to say I did that, right?
That part.
I can remember one of my other favorite ones. I used to buy marching band uniforms when I was with Richmond One every year. Every year a new band got a new uniform.
Oh, wow.
I never saw my first one until my last year. By then my daughter was on the marching band at a high school in a different place. When I say I never saw my first one, I saw the samples and stuff, but I never saw students wearing them. So I went to a competition, and the very last set that I wore was on the field.
and I actually got to see it doing what it was supposed to be doing. It was so touching to me. And I got back to work and I sent the band director an email saying, oh my God, I love seeing you all in competition and I'm so proud of you and all of that. He responded back, Stacy, thank you so much for this procurement. These uniforms make my students feel like professionals and they perform like professionals. So again, it's that making a difference, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
The icing on the cake would be if you told me he sent you your own honorary uniform, band uniform. I'm waiting for that closing.
No,
need to go back and ask.
No, man.
I digress. I'm sorry. I digress.
That was perfect. You all services really does sound life-changing, honestly, from the beds to even housing. It really does sound really changing, powerful too. But last but not least, advice on how to add value to procurement, with you all working, to other workers, how to add value.
I say create strategies. And a lot of times we're adding value just by doing our jobs, right? Just the simple act of getting competition gets you a lower price. That your vendors know that you're getting prices means they're going to bid lower, right?
Yes.
So then what you need to do is celebrate your achievement. Send an email when it's all done, letting your end user know, oh, you know what? Procurement just saved you $100 or $100,000, whatever. Because now they know that if you had not been a part of the process, they wouldn't have gotten the value that you got.
Absolutely. I love that. My thought was, I did come with strategy. I had a two-parter, but I'm going to let strategy stay with Stacy. Mine is making sure that you are solution oriented for your user. A lot of times government procurement is seen as the red tape, the barrier to everything. But if you take an approach of solution oriented, being able to provide solutions to them and being open and flexible and communicating that, right? And I think to be able to be solution oriented, we have to be knowledgeable. So clearly you've got to be willing to learn. Clearly you have to put yourself in spaces where you're constantly taking in knowledge and learning more about the industry. Call your Stacey Greggs, call your Terry McKees, whoever your resources and your rapport that you have, so that you can just continue being the best solution provider for your user. Because if we make their experience better, we're obviously making their jobs easier, so that ultimately we're all helping our communities with, life sustaining services. So that was mine, just being solution oriented. I found it to be really, really critical to make sure that we can build good relationships interdepartmentally with our vendors and so on. So that would be mine, being solution oriented. We are solution builders, and we should see ourselves that all the time. Like, maybe I can't do an invitation for bid, but we can do this request for qualifications, right? To get you to the same end in the most effective way, right? And in compliance. So that's been a big one for me, just making sure that you're solution oriented, but you have to know your stuff in order to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I was going to say knowledge, being knowledgeable, and also willing to educate your end users on the options, just talking through things with them, because sometimes they don't know exactly what they want. So once they have that connection and have the ability to talk it over with you, and you are giving them solutions and options of how to procure something, it can change which direction you go. So I think just educating them as well, and that to me, education can also be contagious, where they're passing that knowledge to someone else that may not be as knowledgeable in procurement, and it could bring value for your organization as a whole. So I think just being upfront and open with your end users can help your entity as a whole.
Agreed.
All right. So does anybody have any last words, or are we going to take what we just said as our last? Well, Trinity has turned her mic off, so I guess that's it.
My mic kept going back off just so I can make sure you all get heard, because my background's kind of busy.
Any last words?
No, I don't. Well, I will say this. I always fall in love with February 28th because that means the next day begins the month that we intentionally get to celebrate ourselves. Like we can do it all year round, but this is the time where we get to say, hey, pay attention to us because this is the value that we bring to not just the communities, but even to ourselves, because we're all constituents. I don't know about you, but you know, even to our own lives and the way we impact our families. So I just think, you know, this is a great time. I'm so happy it's Procurement Month, and I look forward to celebrating in grand ways within our budget.
So thank you, ladies. I really appreciate it. Candace, Trinity, and Miss Kristen. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you all. And this went exactly the way I wanted it to go. So I appreciate you.
No, thank you
thank you for the invite. Yes.
It was nice meeting you all, honestly.
Nice meeting you
Likewise.
Nice hearing you all's answers.